We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about...
Everything theater. Hi there, everybody. I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs. Good morning. We're recording early today.
Yeah. So I think if there's any more, if there's like frogs in the throat but I think we're actors. We're actors, so we can pretend it's in the evening and we're looking marvelous. Along with our marvelous guest today, Margaret Hall, the Associate Artistic Director at Capitol Repertory Theater. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning, Ellen and Benita and everyone else.
And we should point out the reason we're taping this early this time, and listen, when you watch it, you have no idea when we did it unless we tell you, is because life in the theater is busy. Everybody's got stuff going on. And Margaret, we couldn't find a date later on. You're uniquely and intricately involved in the 13th year of Next Act at Capitol Rep, the expansion of the theater's commitment to development of new work.
Indeed.
So, and you're going to be directing, so there's a full length and a lot of snippets, I guess is the best way to put it. There's the winner and the also-rans, but that doesn't mean we may not see them fully actualized at some point.
Yeah, the Next Act New Play Summit is unique in that we always have at least one reading of a full-length play that was submitted to us. And then we have curated over the 13 summits a variety of different events, a couple that have sort of twisted and turned and are always evolving, as is theater, and a couple that have stayed exactly what they were from the very beginning, including one event called the First 15, where we do snippets, or the submission portion, the first 15 minutes, if you will, of several of the plays that percolated to the top of the reading from our various reading committee members. And then the other one that is always around is our at least one main reading of a play. Some people call it the winner. Maggie and I usually call it the one that percolates to the top and is chosen for a reading. Which doesn't mean it necessarily gets full production with us at the Rep, but it is taking a step in the right direction. It was intriguing to all of the reading committee members, or the lion's share of them anyway, as well as Maggie and myself. And our reading members are folks from across the Capital Region down into New York City. They're all involved in the world of theater, of professional theater in some facet or other, including board members, associate artists, local community members that we value and trust their opinions on, to a variety of other individuals we've worked with through different productions at Capitol Rep. So it's a really exciting time. There's a lot of people involved in Next Act, from the reading committee all the way through to the folks who help us make it happen on the day, or days, because it's more than one day.
And we're talking about a lot of submissions, like over 400, correct?
Yeah, we got right around 400 this year. I don't remember the exact number. Part of that is because a lot of folks will submit also, and sometimes they've submitted a play that was submitted before and they forgot that they're not allowed to do that. So sometimes we have to weed through a few of the submissions that don't necessarily meet our criteria that we put forth. But yeah, we had over 400 this year, and right around 400 that were read by our committee members.
Where are they coming from? Where are these submissions coming from?
All the submissions come from all over the United States, and sometimes even outside of it. We do what we consider or call an open call for submissions. We put the information out there. This past year, the submission window was the month of October, and we let folks know through the Capital District audition listserv that's out there. We put it on our website, on our Next Act page. We put it in Playbill in the job posting so that playwrights and folks all around the nation will see it. And then we send it out to a variety of other individuals. We have some folks in the Dramatists Guild that we'll send it to, and they help get it out to folks they know. We send it out to a variety of different professors and folks in graduate programs who might know playwrights. And we always, I think we always, because it's in the world of our marketing department at this point, but when we do the open call for submissions, we have a big whole past playwright email list who have submitted to us. And so they get an e-blast that says that the submission call is open again for a specific amount of time and what we're looking for. And then folks have that month of, well, this past year, the month of October, to decide if their play or plays meet our criteria and if they want to submit.
It's interesting this year, usually, and Ella and I were talking, it's usually in June, but you've moved it up to tie it in with a floated to the top. We won't call it winner.
Well, this one is a winner because we're giving it a world premiere production. See how that goes?
But Three Mothers, it's tied into your production of Three Mothers.
Yes. So over the years since the inception of Next Act, it's lived in a couple of different time slots in our season. And whenever we adjust it for a variety of different reasons. But the biggest thing about the Next Act New Play Summit is that it is about new play development. It's about hoping to find a play that we at Capital Rep believe in and ultimately want to provide with a world premiere production that will then hopefully snowball into potentially one of the next great American theater canon pieces. We want to find the next Lynn Nottage or whoever. And we've had some really amazing success already in the 13 years. One being that every single summit, not including the COVID shutdown years, we have found a piece that we do want to provide with a world premiere production. It isn't always the piece, interestingly, that percolates to the top and gets a main reading. So, for example, Three Mothers, which we are doing the world premiere production of this year, did percolate to the top and was the main reading that year and also got offered a world premiere production. But next season's play, Rosie is Red and Everybody is Blue by John Spellos, was actually a piece that we had in our first 15. And after the summit was over, the 12th summit was over, Maggie and I looked at all of the information, the feedback forms from people, what the Q&As were like if we had them after events. And then we also had continuing conversations with the playwrights who were involved in the 12th summit. So we talked to our first 15 playwrights. We talked to the playwrights whose scripts we read in full. And we talked to them both about being a playwright, Capital Rep's new play development programming, if you will, and the questions we had around their play, the interest they had from other theaters, what feedback they've gotten from other theaters and professionals. And from all of those kinds of discussions and sometimes private readings where we bring that play back into the rep and it's not a reading for the public, it's just for us to see what development has happened and for us to further a relationship with a playwright. Depending on a variety of different things, Maggie and I come to what play we do actually want to provide the world premiere with. And this year, like you were saying, Benita, we have tied all of that idea of the summit and how things first start with us, or often first start with us, to coming right up into the world premiere production that we are doing this year to try to help showcase more fully to our audiences that do come to our world premieres, but maybe haven't come to our summits yet and seen where something starts, to promote the idea of where it starts, where it can be when it hits a first production, and ultimately where it can go on to afterwards. Capital Rep has a unique ability to and has had it for a couple of years to take these pieces, work with the playwrights, and not just in the summit, right? but learn about them in the summit, about the play, about the playwright, and then work with them throughout a year or more in the further development as we ask them questions, again, as other theaters or reading circles or potentially workshopped readings that they've had in other theaters, ask them questions about their script. And then what happens? Sometimes we go, okay, well, we would actually like to provide you with a world premiere now. And then beyond that, what happens is up to a lot of other theaters, but and folks around the nation. But we've had some really awesome things happen from Next Act and then out into and across the nation so far. In fact, we have a really cool event this year that we've called Page to Stage. And the very first Next Act New Play Summit in the 2012-2013 season was then provided its world premiere in 2013-2014 season. I think I have those correct. But it was the very first summit. And it was a play by a playwright named Suzanne Bradbeer, who it's a play called The God Game, and it was by Suzanne Bradbeer. And when we looked her up, because we read all of our submissions blindly, so we have no idea who the playwrights are when we're reading and when people are weighing in and saying, we really loved this one for these reasons, or we had big questions about this one, or whatever the responses are. As that one percolated to the top, we finally reveal who the playwright is, and we Googled her. She's someone who had a bunch of awards from different workshops and reading festivals. She had a great, her website just spoke so highly of who she is. She was definitely a somebody. And her play, The God Game, was given what's called a rolling world premiere in that first time it happened. So we did sort of a co-production-y kind of thing with the Gulf Shore Playhouse in Florida, where they did the first production. But because it was a rolling world premiere, both theaters got world premiere status, and the playwright was able to continue the development from the literal first production into the literal second production, but not having yet published a play. So she got to make changes from what she and her director and actors learned at Gulf Shore, made some changes and implemented them before we did our production at Capitol Rep.
Margaret,
And
I want to jump in for a sec. I think
yeah,
that, it maybe our audience knows, maybe not, that the plays that you work on, and you just touched on that with the God Game, these are not set in stone until, the final, Samuel French prints it.
right.
But, to talk about the three mothers, you had a reading with local performers
Yep.
just, about 2 months ago?
Yeah. 2 months ago. And then we had a second one, believe it or not, about 2-3 weeks ago. And that one was done via Zoom because we didn't have time to, as you said, schedules. We didn't have time to get everybody in a literal room together. So we did another one via Zoom. But yes, when
It's
we
still here.
yeah, it's still working. It's still being adjusted. And when you provide a script with a world premiere, when you're in the rehearsal process, and different theaters make different choices, but at Capitol Rep, we bring the playwright into that process. They come into the rehearsal room with us on a world premiere production, so that they can hear what a first group of other artists bring to the work and make adjustments based on what they think is working, questions that come up from the playwright, they are the playwright, questions that come up from the director and the actors as they're working through a first production of it. And technically speaking, it can change, lines can change all the way up to opening night. We at Capitol Rep try to have it solidified by the time we go into previews, but every now and again, a line or a part of a line or something might change over preview weekend and be slightly different on opening night.
By choice, not because the actor made it.
Correct, because the playwright said, you know what, that joke isn't landing the way I wanted to. Let's try this, and then maybe it does land. Once we open, the production is set, is concreted, if you will, locked in, maybe a better way to say it. So the actors are striving to do that exact script for the rest of that run. But it doesn't mean that it can't have additional changes after that run if the playwright chooses. Again, until you, like you mentioned, until they publish it, whether it's with Samuel French, dramatists, whoever, wherever. And it's every playwright's choice. Often they'll wait after a couple of productions. Again, The God Game, which was our very first production. I don't think Suzanne had it published until it had a couple of other productions after it left Capitol Rep. And it's had I think 12 or more productions around the United States at this point. And coming back to this upcoming summit on Wednesday, April 17th at 6 o'clock, you can see another iteration of what sometimes happens with plays where somebody is interested in it and they turn it into a film. So there's a short film that's called Consider the Sparrow, also written by Suzanne, that is an adaptation of of The God Game, which is our very first Next Act New Play Summit world premiere production. And we're really excited by things like that, right? When you meet someone, when you find a playwright, and you're interested in them. We love Suzanne to death. She's also come back and done other workshops with us with our young playwrights. We premiered a second play of hers called Naked Influence. So we really, I mean, for me, one of the great things is the world premiere production, obviously. A second great thing is meeting these incredible playwrights that I was just talking to Maggie yesterday. We have finalized the main reading that's in our upcoming summit. So on Monday, April 15th at 7:30 p.m. at Capitol Repertory Theater on the main stage, you can hear Ian August's play, which is called All the Emilys and All the Universes. Again, we read everything blindly, so we had no idea who this playwright was. It is the play that percolated to the top, so it's getting the reading, the full reading. And when we Googled him, he's just like all of the other playwrights that percolate to the top. Our reading committee members are really good at narrowing in on plays that say something, that have good characters, that have good plot lines, interesting theatrics at times, as well. And this guy, he is like so many of the other, if not all of the other playwrights that rose to the top and got readings. He's got a whole bunch of awards. He, from being a semifinalist with the Eugene O'Neill Playwriting Conference at one point, to just countless different festivals and new play conferences and workshops and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where several of his different plays have been finalists, semifinalists, selected for productions, all kinds of stuff. So we love that. And we're very excited to meet him and work with him on Monday, the 15th, and to bring his play to the stage for a reading and audiences to hear.
Margaret, number two, it's a financial question on both sides. Yeah. Do the plays that are selected, the play, is there remuneration for the author?
Yes, so Capitol Rep believes in providing a living wage to everybody when they work with us. Readings, obviously, it's not like a main contract where you're making, however many hundreds of dollars or thousands. I don't know all the prices when you're on contract for us in a particular production. But the Actors Equity Union has what's called a casual one-day employment contract, where I think it's like $130-ish for one day, for one day's work.
134.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you're right. I sent that out the other day. $134. It's $134. And so the actors, when they come in, they're making that if they're equity, and if they're non-union, they're also paid. And then a playwright is also paid as well. When we bring folks in from out of town, just like we do for productions that we have, if they're out of town, we provide the transportation. If they're staying overnight, we provide their housing, whether it's in our company housing or a hotel, depending on what else is going on at the rep. So yeah, we believe in providing everybody with the appropriate amount of money for what we're asking of them every step of the process.
And then the flip side is, so that's what's going on stage. So if I'm interested and I want to come, anybody who's listening, they go, man, this sounds neat. I want to be in on the ground floor. So I'm going to come on the 15th.
Yep, the 15th is that.
Or the 20th for the quick reads. What does it
Yep.
cost me? Do I have to
It
pay
was-
anything?
Yes, we do charge for folks to come in and see the events, but it's very low. It's only $5 to see an event in our Next Act New Play Summit. So we actually have 4 days of the summit this year. Monday, April 15th is the main reading, all the Emilys and all the universes. On Wednesday, the 17th at 6 o'clock, we have the short film by Suzanne Bradbeer, Consider the Sparrow. At 7:30, we have a really cool piece called Unreconciled by Jay Sefton and Mark Basquill. Jay Sefton, for folks who came and saw what the Constitution means to us at Capitol Rep, he was the Legionnaire. And he is actually, this is another step in his development of this script. It's a one-man show. He's the only actor in it. And it's had a variety of different readings and workshops. This is a workshop performance, so there's a little bit of tech that goes along with it, which is not always the case with our New Play Summit events, but this one has a little bell and whistle with it. And it is getting a world premiere production at Chester Theater in the Berkshires this coming season for Chester. So we're really excited about that development process, which I would point out is another thing that Capitol Rep takes pride in. We don't always provide the world premiere, but very often we are part of a play's journey. A playwright we met during the shutdown, Kareem Fahmy, has had 2 plays workshopped with us in our summit, American Fast and A Distinct Society, both of which he was able to get productions of before we were necessarily back and on our feet from COVID, from different theaters that had other abilities that maybe we didn't have in that moment. But we're still as proud of those world premiere productions, as if it was on our stage, so to speak, because we did help him get to that spot. So there's really interesting stuff like that happens. But I got sidetracked as I was giving you the
So
lowdown.
4, April 15th,
April 15th, April
17th.
17th, and then Friday and Saturday, April 19th and 20th, we have another series of events. On Friday the 19th, we have 2 events that are geared towards young folks, young writers. We have our Next Gen event, which is an event for college-aged or just out of college folks who are really interested in pursuing playwriting. We have a short play by a lovely student from Temple University. It's called Turn to the Bean. It's about robots and coffee baristas. It's very funny and interesting and makes you think. That is at, did I say the time for that? That's at 5 p.m. on Friday, the 19th. Then at 7:30, we have another event for young playwrights, our local Capital District young playwrights who submit to a 10-minute play contest called the Young Playwright Contest within the Collaborative School of the Arts at the Rep here. 5 or 6 plays will be read. We're still in the final stages of figuring out which scripts are those. And then on Saturday, the 20th, we have our First 15 event, which is where you hear a synopsis and the first 10 to 15 minutes of a script that rose to the top, but didn't get the ultimate top spot and get a full production. And like I said, we've pulled scripts out of that after meeting the playwright and hearing feedback and being interested in the script to then provide with a world premiere. And then at 6 p.m., there's a cocktail party. And all of the folks who are involved in the summit as actors, directors, playwrights, et cetera, are invited to that to schmooze and network and meet everybody else. And then at 7:30 p.m., we have a really cool event, which we've curated with a really cool local artist, all-around artist, who happens to also be a poet, Dee Collin, and she's emceeing a slam poetry contest. The spoken word and the performative word is not always just a piece of theater. Sometimes it's a poem or a film or whatever else it might be. And we had a slam in our Pearlside Community Arts Festival a couple years ago and just really loved it and are very excited to bring that as another avenue for writers and performative artists to bring their words and their thoughts and their feelings to the stage.
Do you have to book or can you just walk in? What do you find?
You can pretty much just walk in. You don't have to. I mean, I always say get your ticket in advance, so that way you can't be not there. But most often we have seats available. And this year all of the events are taking place at Capitol Repertory Theater, 251 North Pearl Street, in case you get confused. And several of them are on the main stage and a couple of them are in our studio theater. So you might be in one or both of the venues. If you haven't been up in our studio theater yet, you have the option or the opportunity to experience that as well.
Now, how about for the playwrights who are listening for next year's next act? What are some of the requirements and guidelines for submitting?
Great question. So, first and foremost, we look for plays that talk about socially relevant issues that might make someone think. Which doesn't mean that a comedy couldn't be one of those things. But we like to contribute to the thought, the greater thought of folks in society. What can we think about to help move forward? So we are always looking for plays like that. It has to be unproduced, so it can have been read in different workshops and things like that before, but it can't have had a world premiere production, because that's the ultimate goal of the summit. We want to find a play to provide with a world premiere. And then a couple of other things vacillate from year to year. We're, again, still coming back from COVID, which I know people don't like to hear that, but it's true in the world of theater. Theaters are still coming back from that. We ask for casts that have 5 or fewer actors, which means they could have more characters if there's double casting within the play, but no more than 5 actors. That helps with that budget line. And then, we ask for them to be full length. So, like a 90-minute or a 2-act. And the other thing they really have to adhere to are the simple guidelines of whenever the open call for submissions is. Most likely, again, October next year, because we've moved everything to line up with our spring timeline of when a world premiere is happening. So we have all of this new play development, how it starts to what it looks like in a world premiere production the first time it's fully realized. So October, look out for October. You can always find information about the summit on Capitol Rep's website at therep.org. And oh yeah, you have to submit it blindly. So when you make your submission, there's no playwright information, and there's a little bit of information on what you have to do. So a submission includes a synopsis that tells us the whole story, no cliffhangers. We want to know your character breakdown, and then the first 10 pages of dialogue, and only the first 10 pages of dialogue. And that's for a variety of reasons. One of them being we want to know if the play starts. We know in the world of theater that if you don't catch an audience within the first 5 minutes of a play, you're not catching them, most likely. So we want to know that a play starts even before we request the full script.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the timing for Three Mothers as well, the run for this year's.
Oh, yeah. Very good. That's a great point. April 26th is our first preview evening, and it runs through May 12th. And it's really an amazing script by a lovely playwright, Jane A.D. Washington, who we actually knew before he submitted to this particular to the summit. I mean, we had met him a number of years ago when he worked as a playwright in our summer education programming. Before we did the Young Playwright Contest, we would bring playwrights in to work with the students who signed up for the program, and they would write a play together with a professional playwright in the room, helping guide it and cement it and put it all together. So we've known Ajane for a number of years, and we're really excited that his play, when we read it and we didn't know who he was or who the playwright was, that his play rose to the top and is getting a world premiere. It's called Three Mothers. It is about 3 mothers who very tragically lost their sons. They were murdered by the KKK in 1964 for helping folks sign up, register to vote. We have some really sad moments in the history of the United States, and that is definitely one of them. And they're true people. They're 100% real people the conversation between these women is imagined based on what the playwright saw in a photo that was actually captured of the three women walking out of the final funeral of the three boys, and what they may have talked about together if they were in a room together just themselves for a little bit of time during a reception, a shiva after one of the funerals. And very cool, the women became staunch advocates in the civil rights movement. They took up the mantle of what their sons had been doing, so that their sons didn't die in vain. It's a really cool play. You should come see it. That play is not $5 a ticket, unfortunately. All of the events within the actual summit from the 15th through the 20th are $5 a ticket. And then Three Mothers is our typical ticketing, which you can find at therep.org. And we do have a scale variety of different seat prices that go down. I think student tickets go down as low as $16. So
They're worth every penny.
I agree.
Now we have just a little bit of time left. Should we do a close-up, Benita?
Ooh, ooh, Margaret's never been.
I know, I say Margaret hasn't done our close-up.
Margaret's going.
So this is our ending segment, Margaret. Now we get to like learn about you as an artist. So just some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for your close-up?
Sure.
So what's the moment in your life when you just knew like I have to do theater?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, a senior in college, I was looking all my senior year into schools for animal zoology kind of classes to be a zoological scientist. And one day, halfway through the year, I went, nope, nope, I'm going to go to school for theater, which was not surprising to anyone.
And how did your family feel when you said like total, job reversal track, I'm going to go this way into the arts?
My family has always been very, very supportive of whatever it is I want to do. My parents growing up always said that follow your bliss. And they've always 100% meant it. When I was in school, they were interested in me maybe finding a backup major, but theater just takes so much time that I was throwing myself into every single class, all of the set classes, costume classes, lighting classes, because I quickly discovered I wanted to be a director. And so I wanted to know all the things. And the only way to do that is take all the classes and put all your time into like as a crew member when you're in college and working on this show and working on that show. And so it didn't feel like I had the time to put into another major. And my parents were like, okay, all right, let's see what happens.
And here you are.
Indeed.
What play in your life has had a huge impact on you, whether it's something that you worked on or something you saw, something you're exposed to?
When I was getting my master's degree overseas, almost everything I saw while I was over there, I think could fall into that category because it was folks from different cultures. And even though I went to school in the UK and they speak English, they're not Americans, right? They do things differently over there. So even the English shows I saw helped. But I also studied classes, like I took a Commedia dell'arte class, which just showed me how physically a person can embody a very specific type in a very specific way. I did a class in Bali and learned that pretty much everything in Bali is art. Everything from their shrines to how they, offerings they put up to the way that their houses are built to the fact that within every family there's somebody who's an artist, carving a mask, stonework, jewelry work, puppetry, being a performer of some sort, dance, all of those things. Everything there it's seen through a beautiful artful eye. I did another class in Russia. Talk about different. And it was all in Russian most of the time too. So I was learning how to take what I would see without necessarily being able to understand the literal words and could I understand the story, which just helped enforce how do you physicalize a character? How do you portray somebody? How does somebody come across? So I would say that, and then I saw a bunch of different things in other places while I was studying and living over there as well. So all of that definitely helped me be determined to be a theater director, not just, oh, I studied that, but I'm going to go do something else now. And then if I was talking something I very specifically worked on, shameless, well, I would say a shameless plug if it was still actually open and running, but I just directed Sweat at the Rep, and it was one of the most gratifying experiences ever as a director. It's very intense material. It's a long play. It's a complicated play. There's a lot of information that Lynn Nottage puts on the page that isn't dialogue, but is information you want your audience to know. So how do you put that in and make sure they understand it and hear it? And then I just had a really incredible cast. You know, you hope that when you're putting all the puzzle pieces together that it turns magical. And this one absolutely was magic.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. I loved
Thank you.
it. Is there a bucket list show for you to direct?
Yes, Michael Frayn's Noises Off. I would love to do that show. I don't think it can happen at Capitol Rep though, because we're a tiny, intimate little theater on a thrust stage. So I don't know how you do the front of the front of a show and then turn a whole set around. I'm still trying to figure it out though. Don't think I'm not.
I encourage you to go with that.
Yeah. And I was going to say, your tech at Cap Rep never fails to amaze.
Oh,
So,
that's nice to know. Yay.
I said that's every time I go into a theater, that's my first thought is, could someone do Noises Off here? I
Is
look
it
at the
really?
space and that's literally what I'm like, could you pull it off here? Because I love that
That's
show so much.
amazing. Me too. I actually met Michael Frayn when I was overseas in college. He talked to us in a class about adapting material. And he was that was fascinating. I was like a total theater geek moment. I was like,
and
Where
we're
did
going
you
to
go
let that be the last moment because you're so excited and delighted because we see the clock ticking down. April 15th through the 20th, all
Yep.
this fabulous stuff going on with Next Act. And then right after that, opening on the 26th is The Three Mothers. So get this on your calendar. Be part of the excitement at Capitol Rep. Margaret Hall,
Absolutely.
thank you so very much for joining
Thanks
us
for having
today.
me.
Yes, and thank you for the early morning chat.
Indeed.
For all our listeners, this has been a delightful way to start the day. I am Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.